Ahoy, this is David Perry and my continuing series of interviews with colleagues and professionals talking about how we get from the great pause of this COVID year into the great return. And I'm very glad to have with us today a colleague and friend who, besides opening up what has become, as one journalist called it, the new Hampshire of California, a combination social meeting place, bookstore, and cafe that has revolutionized how people get together and talk politics in San Francisco at the corner of 16th and Valencia. And also, he is a small business commissioner for the city and county of San Francisco. Please welcome to the show, Manny Yekutiel. Manny, how are you?
David Perry, I'm good.
How are you?
I'm a little schwitzy here on the corner of 16th and Valencia. It's hot, it's humid, but I'm feeling good.
There you go. I mean, you know, when all of this started, a lot of us were gobsmacked. I'm sure you were gobsmacked too, but you instantly turned lemons into lemonade. You took what was one of the more popular in-person spaces in San Francisco for eating, socializing, political dialogue, and you went virtual with Mannys. Talk a little bit about that, what the transition has been like, where you are now, and then we'll start talking about the political season that starts today.
Yeah, so I kind of saw the writing on the wall like a week or two before shelter in place, and I was starting to prepare my staff for, you know, a potential shutting down of our ability to do in-person events. And 4 days after shelter in place started, we launched a fully baked 110 conversation series called Mannys Super Civic Cyber Conversations. 112 30-minute long civic conversations within a month and a half with activists and elected officials, people like Stacey Abrams, the DNC chair Tom Perez, Michael Pollan, Mayor London Breed. It was amazing, and a marathon of civic conversations. By the end of it, you know, we had really engaged the public civically online, and since then, you know, that was around June. We've reopened the space for outdoor dining. We started a weekly talk show called Mannys Live that's filmed in the space and around San Francisco. We're doing a weekly series with Joe Biden's campaign, his senior staff, called Meet Team Biden. And we've thrown a big fundraiser to help flip the Senate and more. So, you know, we're just trying to continue our mission of creating a place for people to go to engage in politics. Today, we're going to have a debate, a watch party for the convention. It's not as satisfying as the in-person gathering, but it's the next best thing, and we're just trying to rise to the occasion.
So talk a little bit also about an initiative you have been part of, keeping Valencia Street merchants and restaurants, small businesses open. And this, of course, is not just because you're a member of the Small Business Commission, but you yourself are a member of the small business community there in the mission. How is that project going? I understand, I hear from a little bird that at some point Mayor Breed is going to come down and take a look. I mean, you are really helping some small businesses keep alive.
I mean, it is the most gratifying thing to be able to create jobs, save small businesses, allow people to keep their hopes and dreams alive with these businesses that have been, some of them have been on these blocks for over 50 years. Porto Alegre has been here for 55 years. And, you know, it started as a side project right before the pandemic. I was elected to the board of the Valencia Corridor Merchants Association. And Valencia Corridor traditionally was one of the most vibrant commercial corridors in San Francisco. And I just noticed that it was not recovering at the same speed as other commercial corridors. A lot of the businesses had stayed boarded up. The protests around Black Lives Matter, you know, most of them were happening right around here. And so a lot of people, right as they unboarded, they reboarded up. And I was just nervous that these businesses were never going to recover. And so I started working about 2 months ago with all the different city bureaucracies and departments and leaders to come up with a plan to reopen the street to small businesses and allow them to spread out safely. And the result of this has been about a dozen businesses have been saved from permanent closure. 4 have opened now, and they weren't planning on opening. And there've been, you know, over 50 jobs created just on these 2 blocks alone. So it's been a huge success. We're doing it all safely. We have safety monitors, block captains, and you know, city inspectors weekly, making sure that everything is compliant. And it just shows, and it's all run by volunteers as well, by the community. And it's this beautiful project that just shows what you can do if everyone bonds together to work on one solution to save small businesses.
When do you take a day off, Manny?
I try not to work on Saturday because it is the Jewish Sabbath. So that is usually my day off. But The closure is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that has meant, unfortunately, and I work the closure myself and make sure that everyone's wearing masks and it's set up and broken down safely. So, I take time off when I need it. But anyone that works in politics will tell you that, you're always working in some way because the work's never done. You're always doing the work. And this is the most important time in our politics ever, probably, but certainly in the last 4 years. There's a lot to do.
What was the worst day and the best day during this great pause, as I call it, of COVID? And when was the day you realized it was really going to be a thing?
The worst day and the best day. I think the worst day probably was when the city decided to halt the opening timeline. Especially for a business like mine that has created a certain experience within its walls and was built to do that. We really looked at the reopening timeline as hope for some kind of return to normalcy as we waited for a vaccine. And when the surge began in mid-June to late June, and the timeline was paused indefinitely, that was a major blow emotionally, not just to me, but I think every small business owner in the city that's trying to cling to hope that they'll be able to do what they used to do in some way. And the fact that the city has not created a reopening timeline since then, I think has caused the reason why we're seeing a lot more permanent closures. The best day was probably Labor Day weekend. Not Labor Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend. There was a vibe in the city. It was kind of the unofficial ending of shelter in place. I don't know if anything in particular happened, but it was a beautiful weekend, and it reminded me why I love San Francisco so much. People were, they were still wearing masks, but they were outside. They were enjoying the parks. They were enjoying the city. And there was a feeling that weekend, I remember distinctly, of folks feeling hopeful at the light at the end of the tunnel from this experience.
Yeah, there is a reason San Francisco's motto is the city that knows how. It was an incredible weekend and a lot of hope. And
to answer your third question, when did I realize that this was a thing? I think during the New York City surge, when thousands of New Yorkers were dying every day, and seeing the human toll of this. When the New York Times did their cover story with 100,000 Americans had lost their lives. I mean, it's hard to see that cover story and see those names and not reckon with the historic moment that we're living in.
So Mannys is very much not a bipartisan space. You have a mission. You opened on Election Day 2018. And here you are. I know you have the Trump in office clock, or until Trump is out of office clock, outside Mannys at 16th of Valencia. How big a deal are the next 76 days to you and to the mission of Mannys?
Core, absolutely essential. This is a big part of why we were built, which was to be the action center to defeat Donald Trump in this community. I have some plans to utilize the outdoor space in front of Mannys as a place for people to go to phone bank and get involved in helping win this election. And I am not going to rest until we've done everything we can so that I can wake up and we can all wake up on November 4th and know that we did our part to defeat Trump and Trumpism, to flip the Senate and to keep the House. So this is the most important 2.5 months of all 4 years, and certainly the 2 or so years that Mannys has been open. And then I think after the election, it's going to be a period of reflection. And I don't think the work stops. I think if we lose, God forbid, we have to keep fighting. We can't be complacent. We can't give up. We'll have 4 more years of fighting, and we have to stay vigilant. And if we win, hopefully, and it is my expectation that we win, then we have a lot of work to do to recover and to fix the public health crisis, undo the damage that this president has done, and restore faith in our democracy and in the seat of the executive office.
So tonight at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 p.m. East Coast, the Democratic Convention starts. And it will be to someone who has seen probably 30 more conventions in my life, and you have the most unique convention ever. What are you
Yes.
looking most forward to tonight? And what is Manny's going to look like? You're not going to have several hundred people cheek to jowl. You're going to have a socially distanced night tonight. So what is it going to look like at 16th and Valencia?
Well, we've decided not to do an in-person gathering around the convention watch because the city is allowing 12 people to gather outdoors. So you can't even do an indoor gathering at all yet in the city. So we are doing a digital watch party where we'll be giving hot takes and screening the footage of the convention to our community. That's gonna be happening tonight. I'm looking forward to Michelle Obama's speech. I was at the convention hall 4 years ago in Philadelphia when she spoke in her blue dress. And I remember crying and getting the chills when she spoke. I sat in the California delegation, and it was so electric and meaningful to hear her speak. So I'm really looking forward to hearing her tonight. I will be watching with my old boss from the Obama campaign who hired me in 2012 to help elect Barack Obama. So the two of us will be at Mannys tonight holding down the fort while all of our community hopefully listens in online.
Well, we will be there. And our last few moments, Manny, any words of advice or wisdom? And actually, I just want to ask you, when do you see that light at the end of the tunnel, and what does it look like for you?
I see the light at the end of the tunnel on November 4th, honestly. I think what this country needs in this dark period is a mandate around our values. And Manny's, like you said, is not a bipartisan space. And that's not because I don't believe in bipartisanism, and I don't believe that being bipartisan is important. I actually think in many ways, our country is at its best when folks of different viewpoints and ideas and backgrounds come together and find common ground. But the Republican Party has lost its way. I mean, completely lost its way. The head of their party is openly, admitting to kneecapping the Postal Service, which is going to be the main form of voting for most Americans in the middle of a pandemic. This man is not fit to lead, not fit to serve, needs to be sent to the history books. And on November 4th, what we need to do, and I think what we will do, is we're going to take back the Senate. We're going to keep our majority in the House, and we're going to have a mandate in swing states and in states all across this country to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And that, I think, will be the shot of energy that we need to know that it will all be okay.
Well, as my mentor, the Reverend Anthony Turner, used to say, from your mouth to God's ears. So that's good advice. We've been speaking with Manny Yekutiel, San Francisco Small Business Commissioner, entrepreneur, small business person of Mannys. You can always learn more by going to www.welcometomannys.com. And I know that I join a lot of people and looking forward to actually coming in Mannys again, socially and decently, at the corner of 16th and Valencia soon. Thanks so much for speaking to us, Manny. Ahoy.
Thank you so much, David.